can kind of tell Jesse likes it right away because he starts nodding. I don't know if you nod even to the stuff you don't like. I should pay more attention, but...
No, I like this.
It's good, right?
It's really good. I saw his ankle kind of doing a little swing.
Yeah, he's moving around.
I mean, I couldn't listen to this for more than 2 minutes, but right now in the moment, I like it.
Fortunately, these songs are only 2 minutes long, so you never have to worry about that.
Actually, the more I listen to this, the less I like it.
It's a little repetitive.
Yeah.
But it's a good, it kind of gets you in the mood, no?
To play video games?
To turn us off and play video games. This song, by the way, is called Beach Time. That's one of the reasons I liked it as well. And it's by FSM Team, and I'm pretty sure that we have used some of their songs before.
Well, at some point, I want to lay out all the songs from all your podcasts, because I know last week's bus ride led us to Beach Time. Bus Station.
Yeah.
Bus Station took us to Beach Time. Beach Time takes us to...
We'll see.
We'll see.
We're going to release a compilation of all of our songs. I think it's a good idea. CA, you have one of the best names ever. And when I get emails from you, just seeing it's from CA Webb makes me feel so important. I don't know why. It's almost like there's this organization out there that's like reaching me about something really important.
Wow.
Yeah, it's cool. I like it. But I'm sure a lot of people know you as just CA Webb.
CA Webb. CA Webb.
But they don't know what the CA means or what it stands for. Please, let's enlighten everybody that knows you and all the new people.
Today, Drew.
Today's the day.
I'm going to break it open.
Let's do it.
So CA stands for Cynthia Ann, all one word, no space, no E, small a, capital A, 2 N's. My 2 grandmothers' names smushed together. Before I could talk, my mother regretted giving her daughter a 10-letter first name. And she just started calling me CA. So it's all I've ever been. But my favorite CA story is I went to Wellesley College, which is a women's college. And when I was a senior looking for my first job, writing my first resume, my mother said, well, I think it's so smart that you go by CA because you won't be discriminated against on the basis of gender. And
gender, or they'll think you're an organization like I did.
Exactly.
Not
like
even a person.
Worldwide consulting firm or something. So I said, well, Mom, that's great. Except if they pick up on the context clues, like I studied women's studies at Wellesley College, I think they'll put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah. I love it. And people call you CA.
Yes.
Because I call you CA Webb. I go for the whole thing.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
It's only 6 letters.
So first of all, you're the president of the Kendall Square Association.
Correct.
And full disclosure, Jesse is on the board at the KSA. We're going to call it KSA throughout this because it's shorter. And since we're abbreviating.
We're friends here.
So Jesse's on the board. And Jesse, you need to update the photo on the website. I don't know if you've seen it lately.
It's a younger Jesse.
It's a younger, and you're also in the thinker pose. You know this photo I'm talking about?
Go back for a second.
On the
KendallSquare.org.
Jesse just walked in. On the Kendall Square, KSA.org.
Kendall Square Association.
KendallSquare.org, everybody.
Okay.
KendallSquare.org.
CA is here, everybody. Start over. Your photo, Jesse, on the board of directors, part of the website, needs to be updated badly.
Oh, you guys talk. I'm going to look
He's
right
pulling
now.
out his
I'm
phone.
excited about
Okay,
it.
I hope everyone does.
Are there pictures of the directors?
Yes. Yeah. I
know what picture you're talking about.
Yeah,
it's not a good one.
No, you've kind of got the finger on the cheek, resting on your hand.
I think he's aged well. I agree. I think we should.
It's not about the age. It's the pose. We got to work on the poses. He's looking it up right now.
Are you saying it's not on brand?
It's
I know the picture you're talking about. My hand's
it's very 1989, 1988. That pose.
Oh, brutal.
Yeah. It's all right. He needs to hear it. This is how he learns and grows.
Oh boy. Yeah. Yeah, we can update that.
How long have you two known each other? Because it's been well before you were on the board.
Did we serve on the board together, Jesse? Because I was a member of the board.
Yes, briefly.
I think we overlapped on the board,
yes.
And then I went off and did some other things, and then I came back as staff, thinking I'd stay for 6 months. I was just going to help them with some strategy. I was interim, very intentionally. Was going to help them hire. And right before I was going to hand over the keys, we teed up some very exciting finalists from across the country, actually. I sort of had one of those, shit, what am I doing? This is the best job ever. And fortunately, the board was very kind to me and said, all right, please stay. So...
Yeah, when
it's
you're
been about
doing
4
it
years.
right, yeah, stick with it.
Is that right? 4 years?
It'll be 4 years in August since I started as interim, yeah.
But see, you were when you were executive director of New England Venture Capital Foundation. Did I get that right?
Association. Yep.
You were in Kendall, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've been in Kendall for a while.
One Broadway CIC.
Because I think when we met, you were serving in that capacity.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned CIC. I've only heard about you. I've only gotten emails from you, as everybody knows. I finally just ran into you yesterday.
That was the best.
You were first day back in the office with the Kendall Square Association.
And you too, right?
Well,
it was our first lunch together this year.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, we grabbed a conference room in the CIC, but we grabbed Shybird, and you guys were sitting down at Shybird. It was really fun running into you.
That was magic.
Yeah.
That was Kendall Square to me. It was like Kendall Square embodied power, proximity. My great people run into your great people, hugs, high fives, laughter,
photo opportunity,
photo op, making plans, swapping ideas.
And if it sounds like we're best friends, it's because we met yesterday.
That's right.
Yeah, it was a really great encounter. Well, welcome to the podcast. We're going to start with some news, right? Does that sound good, Jesse?
Sounds good, Drew. Wait, before we go to news,
can
we do some CA news? Like recent news from today?
Oh, yeah.
Because CA told us she took the red line here.
I did.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of a big deal, right?
So this morning I woke up and I thought, where's my T-Pass? Do I still have a T-Pass? Where is it?
Is it still good? Is it like...
I found it and it had $8 on it.
Oh, that's nice.
And I swiped in. I dropped my kids at school in Cambridge. I got on at Porter. Everyone was wearing their masks.
Do you live up near Porter?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, no, I live in Inman, but I have to take my kids across Cambridge to get them to school. So I left the car near their school. I hopped on the T, came into the city. But everyone was wearing masks. There were plenty of seats. It was enough riders that I was like, okay, good. Like people are using the T. You know, everyone had a seat, so
are masks
it wasn't
required
crowded.
on the T?
Yes, they are. They
are.
So
public transit still requires it.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And everyone was doing it, and it felt great.
I also wanted to mention before we do get into news, because I'm so anxious for the news. I love it so much. You must be pretty early in that area to be like back in the office before everybody else. I mean, we're near downtown Crossing. It's empty. I used to come here every day, even before I worked at Graffito, and it's kind of a ghost town, relatively speaking. Kendall, still like that?
Kendall is quiet, but it never shut down.
Right.
I mean, almost every company had people in, essential workers and others throughout the pandemic. But it's quiet. Yeah.
But it's kind of cool being back before everybody else.
It feels great. It feels great. I feel really lucky that we can settle in so that we're going to be really firmly settled by the time we get to welcome back.
Yeah.
Many, many more people come September.
And I'm sure you've had tons of conversations with people, which we'll get into, but just being there and now starting to meet with people and have those conversations, I think is a big difference too. So news, right around the corner at Cambridge Crossing, REI's opening up.
I heard.
Which I'm sure you've heard. I don't know if a lot of people have heard because it's not super public. It still seems on the DL.
I think it's out there finally after years as of this week.
Here's my question. Are they going to have a climbing wall?
I don't know, but this article that I found in Cambridge Day, first of all, is Cambridge Day reputable?
Yeah.
Okay, good, because I found a bunch of stuff there. It'd be awful if I found out it was like some right-wing...
it's hyper-local and a very small staff, but they produce some good journalism.
I found two articles here. The first one just says...
I bet we know who wrote it. It's probably Mark wrote it, right?
Yeah.
Yes, Mark Levy.
He's the man. He knows it all.
Is it Levy or Levy? We should at least get
Levy.
That right. Okay.
I have no idea, but I'm going to go with Levy.
Yeah, me too.
Say it with confidence. Mark Levy.
Hey, Mark.
It is Levy.
REI says it's opening Cambridge Crossing store with a priority on gear for bicyclists and runners, which is, I think, kind of what Cambridge Crossing is trying to be, connected via bike paths and things like that. So I think this is a good sign, right?
Yeah, it's right in the community path. I think that's part of the story. It gets you down to the river. You can get to Charlestown. You can get upstream.
It goes all the way to Middleman. It's part of the Middleman path, is it?
Well, that community path will connect up through Somerville.
Jeez.
Minuteman, my friend. Minuteman.
What'd I say?
Yeah, Middleman.
Did I say Minute Maid?
You capitalist. What is this?
I said Middleman?
You called it the Middleman.
I'm going to delete that. That's gone.
See, I didn't hear it. I didn't hear it.
I've got too many things going on. I'm not built for this job.
But I would say to answer Cia's question, I do not think there'll be a climbing wall.
I don't either.
Because it's going to be like a mini, right?
It's a small format neighborhood store. It's going to be at 181 Morgan Avenue in the fall. It's 6,500 square feet. We'll have carefully curated products focused on Cantabrigians' interests in running and bicycling gear. So basically, they're catering to what they think is the audience in Cambridge.
You got it.
Yeah. And then, it says they'll be connected to commuter bike center, equipped with self-service, bike maintenance tools for quick fixes, restrooms, and showers. Wow. Right here, connected to Middleman Park. No, I'm just kidding. I'm trying to.
I think it's a great retail choice for that neighborhood.
Totally.
And it's, it's a good brand and it's a responsible company. I think it does tell a great story.
Yeah, we need more than just food and beverage in East Cambridge.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Last week when Michelle Wu was here, we talked about childcare. And whenever Graffito does these sort of more elaborate strategic plans for retail, childcare is part of it, it seems like. But you're always including bike stores, bicycle maintenance.
Yeah, our go-to when clients or would-be clients
here's our
say,
secret sauce.
Here's it. Here's
there you
Graffito.
go.
They're like, what do we need to put on the ground floor of these buildings to make these neighborhoods attractive to like upstairs users? Daycare.
Yep.
Bike store.
Yep.
Fitness. And then it's food and beverage. You got to make sure you have a spot for after work, and you have to make sure you have a morning spot for coffee.
I love it.
And obviously lunch. I mean, that's it, right? That's what a lot of the upstairs workers really want.
Now you don't have to hire
And a
us.
decent pedicure. That never hurts. We still don't have that in Kendall.
Decent
health and beauty
is part of that. Yeah,
we're not hearing as much from upstairs tenants like this is a must-have, but on a neighborhood scale, you need that stuff.
Yeah.
I have a theory about that stuff, by the way. We can talk about it later.
Which stuff?
The future of like health and beauty and how we consume it.
What better time than now?
Well, I think what's going to happen is that health and beauty, and you could even expand it to coaching and mental health, I think is going to start to become more part of the amenity package in office and lab buildings.
Yep.
And, there'll be treatment rooms and as opposed to having a salon, there'll be a day where somebody comes in and offers manicures and pedicures. Like, I think it's going to start to be packaged a little bit more. We're seeing this downtown, or we were seeing it pre-pandemic. Some of that stuff may end up living upstairs, not necessarily in ground floor premise.
Yeah.
Which makes it more for the tenants specific, right?
Yeah,
when
which
they do that.
I don't love, candidly. Like, we want activity and we want value at a neighborhood scale, not just for people working in these labs and offices.
It becomes a rarefied thing.
So there are some issues with that, but it's interesting to start thinking about the world of
on-demand services versus fixed brick and mortar.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In the Cambridge Day periodical, I think it's just online.
Online newspaper.
Yeah, it's an online newspaper. Yeah. Thanks. Fees reduced to help businesses during COVID must live on in spirit for recovery, officials say.
That's right.
Let me just give you an overview here. I'm sure CA could do a better job, but I might as well just read. Fees for small businesses reduced during the corona crisis will continue through 2020. Sorry, did I say that? Fees for small businesses reduced.
2021, you meant.
The reductions will persist through 2021.
God damn it.
Into 2022.
Aren't you reading from something?
I am.
But let us help you read from across the room.
I'm going to start over. Fees for small businesses reduced during the coronavirus crisis will continue through 2021. And officials plan additional fee waivers and to further streamline permitting processes. So they're basically a lot of breaks that have been happening in Cambridge specifically over 2020, and they're going to continue.
Yeah.
It has to.
Yeah.
And because we're in recovery mode, right? That was sort of what you talked about in this article. There's a quote here. You say we are moving into recovery mode. The policies we set and the barriers we remove in the months ahead will set the tone for a long time to come. And they're going to have a direct bearing on whether our small businesses can recover from the negative effects of the pandemic.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the pandemic has given us so many things, including a really deep appreciation of the role Main Street businesses play in our quality of life. And cities like Cambridge have done a really nice job of saluting that and providing hard and soft forms of relief. And so people like me who work to advocate for creating vibrant communities and different business interests have just said, look, let's keep it going. These small business owners get nickeled and dimed by cities. It's not just Cambridge, get the $30 fee here and the $100 charge and this tax and that tax.
These things have been in place forever.
Yeah.
So it's not even like,
and no one ever stopped and added them up and started to put themselves in the shoes of the small business owner and say, wow, how does it feel to get 30 different pieces of mail every year, at different times and have to keep up with it all?
Yeah.
Never mind also pay the bills. So we're just working with the city and the council and others to really streamline the experience of being a small business owner to make Cambridge, one of the best cities to run a small business.
Well, here's a number for you. There was 40% reduction in most licensing fees for businesses renewing in the fall of 2020 and in the spring this year. These reductions said to have led to a savings of roughly $888,000 for local businesses. That's a huge number. Immediately, I'm like, well, how can the city just give up $1 million?
Fortunately, Cambridge
can.
Yeah.
So
but many other cities
they can afford it long term.
Yeah, and the return on investment for the city, right, to maintain vibrant main streets is real. It's a drop in the city's bucket, and as far as budget goes, but those are meaningful charges to these small businesses that really eat into their margins.
Here's the question for you.
Yep.
This article mentions that there are still state laws that they can't change.
That's right.
Right. So there are still businesses in Cambridge that have to obey and pay certain fees. Are you in touch with state officials to try and work on those as well? Or can you really just focus on Cambridge and make that a better sort of system?
I think it's a both and.
Okay.
And, there are great organizations like MACP that will take that on at the municipal level, look for those bigger wins for cities and towns across the state. That's probably not what the KSA will do, but we're always game to join a good coalition or alliance to make some good sense decisions in favor of our small businesses.
It also sounds like they're trying to consolidate the process for everybody. So they're not visiting multiple times, multiple agencies to try and get these licenses. It sounds like they're trying to make it just easier and serve as, they're saying, a one-stop shop to apply for extensions.
Yeah.
That's a huge difference, especially if you're a business owner. Money is one thing, but trying to
Time
navigate
is everything.
Oh my God, just figuring out where to go, what to do, and when is a pain, right?
And I was so inspired, when I spoke at the hearing last week, I told them, I live in Cambridge. I did a home renovation last year. I was blown away by the online platform that the city gives homeowners for requesting permits.
Because it's difficult.
Tracking the process. No, it's seamless.
It's so easy.
It's so easy.
Also saves the city money.
Totally.
Right.
And then when they actually have to put a person on the phone with me, it's because it was a really considered decision, right? Because I could get almost everything I needed online, self-serve. So anyway, we're just encouraging them to take that same protocol and apply it to small business management.
Why shouldn't this be a tech-forward city of all places?
Totally.
Cambridge.
It is. It's just the next step. And it needed some people to just flag it, right? And move it up the stack of priorities.
Well, the other thing that's so interesting, and I think Cambridge gets it, and CA alluded to it in her comment earlier, is that there is the economic impact of that $800,000+, but there also is just the time and energy it takes to figure out where to file, where to go to City Hall, even navigate these websites, which is a huge burden on, small local owner-operated businesses. And oh, by the way, when English isn't your first language, from an equity perspective, we start to think about building more inclusive, equitable, diverse places. All of this has a disparate impact on folks that, again, don't speak English or have never done this before.
Yep.
So that element of barriers of entry, the non-economic barriers of entry, is massive. I would actually argue from an equity perspective, those barriers are oftentimes harder to get past and beyond than the economic ones.
Totally. And the path I thought you were going to go down is just the cost that the city already bears in paying their people to stuff envelopes and send these invoices out all the time. I mean, that's the stuff we don't stop and think about. It's kind of like, people thought Michelle Wu was so radical for saying, let's free the tea, let's make the MBTA free of charge. But actually, it's not that radical because there's a cost to collecting money. And if you can just defer,
and those systems,
cancel that cost, you
systems,
can run different systems and do different things.
Right. Yeah, it's all true. Last piece of news from the Boston Globe. This was from May 25th. The title is How a New York Private Equity Giant Became Boston's biggest commercial landlord and biotech investor. The biggest private equity firm in the world has been pouring money into Boston by the billions, buying up prime real estate and investing in promising biotechs. Blackstone Group said it now owns more than $12 billion of real estate in the area. And it has chosen Cambridge as home for its $4.6 billion life science investment fund, the biggest of its kind. I assume most of this is going to happen near or in Kendall.
Yep.
So you're familiar with this. I know you are. Just really quickly, because this is part of the conversation, this huge bet on Boston underscores the explosive growth underway in the life sciences sector. We know this, Jesse, because I feel like every client we have is building some sort of life sciences building. By the way, Biomed is Blackstone's branch in Boston, right? That's opening.
That's right.
Is that how it works?
Yeah, Blackstone owns Biomed.
Yep.
Right. So yeah, they're the landlord.
Yeah, and Biomed, correct. They actually, even pre-Blackstone buying Biomed, Biomed's been a long-term landowner in and around Kendall Square.
And CA, you're quoted in this. I love just reading people's quotes while they're here staring at me when they could just say it. But I think it's worth sort of putting down, and then we can talk about it. Biomed has been a leader at showing the others the way and making the business case for owning labs. They've done a very good job of playing the ground game of being locally invested. What does that mean, being locally invested?
Well, it means multiple things. It means showing up. It means building relationships outside your four walls and being curious about the community in which you are participating. Not everyone does that.
And how do they do that? How does someone like Biomed do that?
So, any good commercial real estate firm is playing the ground game every day. They know who owns the businesses in the community. They know who runs the government. It's their job to know. It's their job to build, hopefully, very healthy relationships with all stakeholders in a community. Biomed has owned buildings in Kendall for a long time. They've always participated actively in local nonprofits, in the Kendall Square Association, and a variety of venues. And I'd say they've really ramped it up since putting together the plan for now their successfully zoned new building on 3rd Street, where they're putting in a major cultural center, arts performance space, and office and lab. It's going to fill in kind of a missing tooth, if you will, in the smile of that part of Kendall Square, and we're really excited. It's been this weird gravel lot surrounded by an ugly fence for some time, and it didn't make sense in the heart of thriving Kendall. But in order to get it zoned, they had to go out and really do a lot of legwork to listen to the community, and I watched closely. They consulted with our group, every step along the way. And you just see, Jesse knows well, you see different levels of earnestness in these processes. Some are very earnest and some are very transactional. And theirs was very much on the earnest end of really being curious. Along the way, they also made some big investments in local nonprofits. They're building a really exciting new cultural community asset that will be around for, probably generations to come. And we're excited about the way they're doing business right now.
Wow. So it's really just beyond the walls of the building is what that means, right? Focusing on the area around the building that they're putting up.
Truly listening, as opposed to coming in and being prescriptive about, we're going to do this within this neighborhood. I think what CA is saying, that earnest element is they listened, they engaged, they tested their own assumptions, I would argue. And, the outcome, I think, will be done in a way that does create a more interesting place that people are bought into. Right?
Totally.
It's not top down.
Yeah.
Driven.
I mean, so another thing I'd say about this, we all know folks, we have friends maybe who were born on third base, right? That kind of way of speaking. They were just born with a lot of privilege. It was a given they were going to go to great school because of the parents they have and the way they were raised and what have you. And some of those people know they were born on third base and spend their lives really appreciating that privilege and, doing right by that privilege, whatever that means to them. Other people think they arrived on third base because they're special. And everything that follows was just their due because they're so special. And I just think there are businesses that operate that way too, right? There are businesses that are like, I'm Uber, I can put cars on the road because cities have paved these streets and I can run my business. So I have an obligation to do right by the cities that I'm building my business on the back of. Uber has not always operated that way, right? In fact, they've actually operated largely the exact opposite. So I think great businesses understand the context in which they're thriving and invest in making sure that they can continue to thrive in a really cooperative way.
It makes sense that these life science places, buildings are being put up in Kendall, but why is everybody now, I don't know if it's because of the pandemic toward the end or if it was already planned, but what's going on? Why life sciences?
Where do I start? I mean, look, there's a glib answer and then there's a more thoughtful answer.
I like glib.
The glib answer is that we are living through a pandemic and there are companies like Moderna that have gone from pre-product to, many multi-billion dollars of return for everyone involved.
And that looks good.
Investors say, give me some of that.
Yeah.
So, there's some concern softening in the office market. What are our options with these floor plans? Okay, let's move over to lab. There is some of that. And then there's, looking at what has been a just consistently strong life sciences market for, I should knock wood when I say this, but it's been a good 15-year run now, maybe longer. I'm not the authority, but it's just, it has this feeling of where we are in the technology and science of still early innings, still so much to do, so far to go that investors are wanting to be part of that.
Which fuels, and you need the real estate for it.
Yeah. There are entire cities that are promoting that they're going to be the life science capital. Like there's a commercial on TV that's, I think, Middlesex, New Jersey.
There you go.
Have you seen this?
I haven't.
Because you don't watch TV as much as I do, which is a
Wait,
good
Middlesex,
thing.
New Jersey?
Yes, there's a commercial that airs, I think, during Colbert or something, for Middlesex, New Jersey. Or is it Middleman, New Jersey? I don't know. But and it's basically promoting itself as like a life science capital. Like this is where, if you're a life science company, you need to be. And that's the commercial. So they're not even attracting me. They're looking at this person that wants to build there.
Yeah.
It's a crazy thing. So it's just a huge
but
boom.
Is it?
Well,
if we look, so I went to college, I went to Wellesley and graduated in 97. So I spent the mid 90s around Kendall Square. And a lot, Wellesley, you can cross-register at MIT. So I knew the campus pretty well. And I used to walk through that campus thinking, oh, these poor students, like what a depressing place to have to come to school, because it was gray. It was just concrete. Yeah. There wasn't a lot going on. You would never have guessed back then. Even if you were working at Wang or digital, you were in on the 80s and early 90s run around tech. I don't think you could have ever guessed what was coming in the 2010s.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That ends our news segment. I feel like we have to anyway, we need to talk about the Kendall Square Association. I'm sorry it's taken so long to get to it. Tell us for those that don't know, what the Kendall Square Association is. What does it do?
Yeah.
And why does Kendall Square need an association like this?
So we enable the future by connecting the people, changing the world. We are the community platform for Kendall Square, which is the global epicenter of innovation. As you said, it really is the global capital of biotech, and it's a really formidable tech hub as well. All of the U.S. major tech companies have a secondary office in Kendall. So some branded and named that you can find, and some that are a little bit more covert because of the kinds of technologists they can attract and hire there. So the Kendall Square Association was started over a breakfast meeting of leaders of tech and life science companies, MIT, some civic folks, about 14 years ago. And they just started talking about really what's happening now, but now it's, 10x. So, everyone's coming here. Everyone wants to move their business here. This is getting pretty exciting. Should we steward it? Should we really try to continue cultivating it further and take care of this thing? And by the end of breakfast, everyone said, without a doubt, there's something special in the air. Let's make sure it goes the right direction. So they were pretty prescient. And so what we've been able to be over the last decade and a half is the chief advocate for Kendall's future. It's my job to run the SWOT analysis. What are the strengths? How do we further augment those? What are the threats and weaknesses? And how do we mitigate them? We have an amazing board of 30 leaders that are very representative of Kendall Square from the various industries and interests that make up our community. And together, we're on this awesome journey of both serving people within Kendall and making sure that, our companies have what they need to make it the best place to bring their people to work, but increasingly also being outward looking and making sure that we're being a really thoughtful stakeholder in the Cambridge community and contributor to the wider community in which we exist.
And who are your members? Not just these businesses you're talking about, but also restaurants.
So we're a 501c6 business association. Yeah, but right. All the businesses, full stack. So from the Main Street, restaurant retailer to Takeda.
I feel like the power of your association was just amplified during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Because it was really a serious time when an association like yours had to stand up, start speaking and fighting.
Completely.
Yeah. And that was that first article I mentioned.
Well, and you all were on a call with us. We got on the phone with Graffito the Saturday before the governor did eventually declare a state of emergency, because we were all fielding calls from restaurateurs who were terrified that they were hurting their customers and their employees. And they were saying, help us figure out what to do. And after that call, I started reaching out to people across the Baker administration saying, you gotta communicate. You gotta start talking to us because people are sick. And we don't want to further spread this pandemic. I mean, were we calling it a pandemic? Maybe it had just been declared a pandemic.
That was such an intense call.
That day.
Do you remember that?
It was brutal. I mean, you really get an appreciation, right? Like these small business owners, they have to do it all. And at that point, the governor wasn't acting. And so they were having to act like the governor. Rachel, who I know was on a previous podcast,
Rachel Miller-Munzer.
Yeah.
From Big Hip Dipper.
Mamalas. And they made a call early and said, health of our customers and our people matters more than making money. And they stepped away. They shut down.
Well, and speaking of that and the state of emergency, it ended only today. June 15th of 2021.
That's wild.
Why are we not drinking champagne right now?
Yeah.
Well, we usually celebrate after the end of one of our recording sessions for just surviving through it. Yeah. So maybe we'll break something out. But that is a remarkable thing that it's ended today. And that was what a lot of their restaurants used as their time for letting people back in the restaurants. They were like, scientists are saying it's safe, but we're still, things are winding down. Let's wait for the state of emergency to end. So I think today is actually a pretty big day in that respect.
Yeah. And see, I remember you did a great job coming out of that call because like I said, that was such an intense call. And I remember these restaurants were struggling with like, do I stay open? What do I do? How do I take care of my people? And it felt so hard in the moment and actually got harder for them.
Yeah.
But I believe that the mayor of Cambridge that Sunday was the first mayor in Massachusetts to announce required closings of restaurants.
Yep.
And a lot of that came through some communications post that call that Graffito and KSA had with folks of the city talking about the burden this was on these restaurants with all the ambiguity.
And how they needed leadership.
Yeah, somebody had to make the choice.
And clear communication.
And that was the Sunday. And then I think Baker followed up that Tuesday, but said it wasn't going to go into effect until that Friday, something like that.
That's right.
That was so intense those first few weeks.
Yeah. But can I finish that point,
yes,
Drew? I mean,
please.
Absolutely. So it was the restaurants and retailers, but same story with the big companies in Kendall.
Sure.
What did we do the first week we were all working from home? We just spun up a ton of Zoom calls. So we got all the site leads on a call. We got all the heads of comms, all the heads of HR, and we just listened. I mean, literally the question was, how are you? And you would just hear this huge sigh and then an awkward pause, and then someone would break the ice. And then they all quickly realized they were all confronting the same problems at the same time alone. And so my team quickly said, okay, wait a minute, this is why we're here. Like, we're here to make sure you don't have to do it alone. So we spun up this future of how we work task force. We ended up bringing a number of kind of interventions, right, into the mix to make sure that they could jointly problem solve, collaborate, benchmark against one another, and importantly, know they weren't alone.
And you're out there now, I'm sure, talking to the same people. What are you hearing today?
I mean, there are still so many questions about returning people to the office because, again, these kinds of companies, most of them are not taking a top-down, you have to. They're all trying to be very responsive. They have run more pulse surveys than, you could count. They are marketing to their people. They're promoting, like, here's why you should come back to the office. Here's what we have to offer.
They're selling themselves all over again.
They're selling themselves all over again, working to be an even stronger culture, an even better place to work. And that's a lot of work.
Interesting. I also think that this, goes back to glib, but my perspective, but also legally, I don't think people really understand what they can do or say. I think there's still a lot of ambiguity in that respect. So everybody's being very cautious and inviting versus, hey, you got to do this.
Yeah.
I think that plays into it too.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, there are so many issues. I think that just hearing CA talk about this, it kind of validates the importance of organizations like the KSA, like that convener role you played for massive tech companies, pharmaceutical, biomanufacturing companies, and also restaurants. Like the role the KSA has played in this specific neighborhood to bring folks together, to share ideas, to have some group therapy over the last 15 months is pretty remarkable. And I think it's probably one of the reasons that so many other districts are looking at the KSA as kind of a model right now.
Absolutely. I mean, not only do we have CA here because we know her, but also Kendall Square is such an important part of our city, but because it is such a highly respected association for a neighborhood. That doesn't always happen. There are not a lot of retailers that really count on their local association to really fight for them or to get them what they need or to provide a better community or neighborhood.
Yeah, just employers. I mean, part of being your earlier question, Drew, about like what does it mean to be invested in your community? Like everyone in the KSA pays to be in this organization. And, it is, I would argue, particularly today, the folks that continue to renew and join, it's because they're getting real value out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Kendall is such a special place. I mean, to have a shared identity where we're all showing up because the future of our businesses depends on collaboration. It's easy to say that and for it to feel just sort of like a throwaway, like, oh yeah, the C word, collaborate. But actually it's true. And we see it in spades in this pandemic, right? We've got Sanofi doing manufacturing for Moderna, like everyone's in business with one another, helping, the new news out of Biogen about their new drug that it's been controversial, but, got FDA approval.
It's the Alzheimer's?
Yeah, the Alzheimer's drug. That's a rising tide for a whole constellation of biotechs that are working in that science or doing business with Biogen. So anyway, it's a very interdependent community, and that collectivist spirit runs through our veins in every way.
You are mentioning why Kendall Square is so unique because of that synergy. I feel like when we have meetings, Jesse, that I've been fortunate enough to sit in on, some of the work you're doing, there are some clients in other cities who are like eyeing Kendall Square. We want to be like Kendall Square.
Like everyone,
right? I love your reasoning for sort of subtly saying like, well, you might not be Kendall Square. Like that might not be achievable. What are some of those reasons?
You're right. Everybody wants to be the next Kendall Square, but most people can't be the next Kendall Square. And in fact, I would argue no one can be. So I think part of that is educating our out-of-town clients about what makes Kendall Square so darn unique and special. And many of them don't realize, I mean, Cambridge is a city of 100,000 people approximately. And within that city is MIT and Harvard. Kendall is immediately adjacent to MIT's campus. There are all sorts of collaborations, Whitehead and Broad. I mean, the list goes on of MIT and Harvard collaborations. And oh, by the way, across the river, which I could bike to in 3 minutes, is Mass General Hospital. And you're next to the river and you're on top of mass transit. So all these things have come together over the last half century. And certainly accelerated over the last, to CA's earlier point, really accelerated, I would say, over the last 20 years to create the Kendall Square of today. And we can help bring some of the amenities, and we can help think about what could make another district attractive in the same way that Kendall Square is attractive. But those institutional anchors, like that is so...
It's everything.
It's everything.
You have to have a major research institution to have any hope of a Kendall Square type place. It's possible though. I don't know the ins and outs of, say, Miami, but I observe when Tim Rowe at the CIC said they were going to open CIC Miami. And to me, that was like, what? No, it's all in New York and the Bay Area and Boston. Like, didn't you know that? Okay, yeah, Austin's up and coming. Miami's really become a very exciting creative hub for business. Like, they've staked out a place for themselves. And I think other cities can do it too. But it is a long run strategy. You're not going to start reaping the rewards in 5 years.
Yes.
It is a generational strategy.
And you know what's so interesting about that point is that the players that are trying to play in this world, and there are some massive global players that are making a bet on, building lab and research facilities, for-profit entities, right? They all want to be next to universities. CIC next to UMiami Health, right?
Yep.
You track where all these developments that in the Graffito mindset actually have a chance at being something like, not the next, but like Kendall Square. Philadelphia is a place we're spending a lot of time in. Drexel and CHOP and Penn are there. Anyways, oh God, this hasn't happened to me that much in the podcast. I just lost my train of thought.
I count on you not to lose your train of thought.
I know, it never really happens.
We're talking about Miami and then other cities that are trying to do it.
Yeah, it'll come back to me.
Let's run it back.
Before we get into your Inclusion Drives innovation program, which before we run out of time, I do want to talk about.
We have to make sure there's enough time for me to come back to what I forgot to say. So just keep it going.
We'll have a second part.
Yeah.
Oh, remember that thing Jesse was talking about 3 weeks ago? Here's part 2.
Oh no, sorry. I remember what I was going to say now. For real.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay. So CA's point about universities, they have a long-term generational perspective. And the problem is oftentimes private developers come in and they want immediate return.
Yes.
But they want to be next to these research institutions. And they forget that like building a university or a research institution is not a short-term play.
Yeah.
So when the private capital comes in and says, I'm going to be next to this university, I'm building the next something like Kendall Square, and they don't take a long-term perspective.
Right.
It's not a good thing for the neighborhoods. It doesn't ever really work. So finding that capital that is patience and that perspective that is patience, just like the anchor institutions, that's one of those ingredients that I find our clients lack. They see the university, they're like, we want to be here, it's got all the ingredients, but the core ingredient is patience.
Completely.
So that's been something, that was worth the wait, right?
That was worth the wait, and it's such a key point. And, you look at the constellation of commercial real estate firms doing business in Kendall, and I think we all benefit from the fact that Matimco, the MIT management company, which, manages the MIT endowment, does significant real estate investing and has bought more and more, including the kind of landmark Volpe redevelopment project.
And they direct develop.
Right, they direct develop. And so we all benefit from watching how they do business because they consistently take that long-term view. And it ends up influencing the Boston Properties and Divco West and others, right? Because it creates a cultural expectation of how you operate in a place.
Yeah.
Can we talk about KSA's Inclusion Drive Innovation Program?
Let's do it.
Okay. How did it come about?
Yep.
And what did it entail?
Yeah. So when I joined the KSA as a staff member, a huge part of why I did it was because the board was talking in really meaningful ways about a commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and a belief that that was right squarely at the center of the SWOT. Right? Like our ability to thrive as an innovation district really depends on our ability to attract the best people from everywhere in the world, regardless of the language they speak, their nation of origin, their ethnicity, whatever it is. And so we just started pulling on that thread saying, okay, so what does it look like for Kendall Square to go on this journey, a DEI journey? How do we begin to live these values? And along the way, we've done a number of things. We've run different learning journeys. We've done different kind of design sessions and workshops with folks across the Kendall community, done a lot of listening about how racism impacts people's lives at work in Kendall Square, on our sidewalks, in our offices. And along the way, realized that there's a lot of good intention, that there are some real bright spots of organizations that have begun to get some practices and policies right, if you will, but then no one's got it all right. Just no one's got it all right. And it's a grand experiment, and we got to speed it up because the rate of change has been way too slow. And so our thesis was, if we're the convener in Kendall, let's convene around this. Let's get the movers in the room to start exchanging ideas, talking about what is working and beginning to work through what is not. Let's do this together because that's how we operate in Kendall. And as we played with that idea, it was initially going to be a real-time, meeting. The pandemic meant that we took it to Zoom, and that gave us the opportunity to actually develop it into what it is now, which is a 10-week professional development course focused on helping you become anti-racist and become an anti-racist leader inside your company. And Jesse is a graduate of our program.
It's an amazing
Alumni.
program. And Gustavo and Angela. So 3 of the 7 folks that we had.
Will the other members of Graffito get to partake in future rounds of because this is going to continue, right?
Yeah. We offer it twice a year.
Yeah, I think the answer is yes. I mean, we're involved in our own.
I'm putting him on the spot.
No, the answer is yes. I mean, I think it was super valuable for the 3 of us, and I think actually allowed us, to CA's point, to bring back readings and learnings and topics. And this was part of our Thursday sessions.
We have a team meeting every Thursday to talk about these types of issues.
And also allowed us to start to figure out what do we need to hire our own facilitator to come in and customize a program for Graffito that allows us to think about not just what we do internally as a team, but how do we make our anti-racist work more outward-facing on our projects? And that led us to Powerful Pathways, who we're working with now on a customized kind of program, which has been great. And this came, again, talk about the convener role. Like, this was a remarkable and a huge undertaking for the KSA that I think for everyone that participated, and there's some folks I spoke to that I would not necessarily have anticipated, white men mostly, just to be clear, would have come out of this talking about being changed or even being willing to be changed in the way they think about these issues. And it did that. It was amazing.
Great. Yeah. Well, if people want to learn more, they can go to kendallsquare.org and find out more.
It's only for Kendall Square Association members currently?
That's right. Yeah. Although, obviously our members have sites around the world. Yeah. So we have, in the last cohort, we had people in from Switzerland and Japan and, multiple locations, but currently only open to KSA members.
So if you work for an organization that's a member, you can participate.
Yep. And we have stakeholders. Not every single member of our association still has a physical site in Kendall. Some of them are just doing significant business in Kendall. So
great. Well, I think we're out of time.
No.
Yes, I know. What are you doing for the rest of the day? Do you go back home? Or are you going back to the office now that
I'm
you guys
liking the looks of your office. I might just stay here.
Hey.
You're welcome to stay here.
Everybody says that when they come in.
It would make me so happy.
Our response is, Jesse would love for you to come here.
Yes.
Fantastic. I think I'm going to get on the T and go back to Kendall and check on the team. It's only our second day back in the office. So
what's it like being back with everybody?
It's so novel. It feels so good.
Do you have an arrangement where you're all coming in at the same time, or is this just you're doing full?
Monday is team day. You have to be in on Monday.
Okay, so that's rule number 1.
And then for the summer, you have to choose at least one other day.
Oh, that's okay.
And then in the fall, it's going to be choose at least 2 other days. And then we're going to test and iterate.
We're sort of thinking about how to do it. So I'm always curious to hear how people are getting back to the office. I think nobody cares. I think that's a great policy. Like, there are designated times where we just all need to be here.
Yeah.
To bang things out as a group. Yeah.
Yeah, and just be together, right?
Totally.
Yeah. And
that was another thing I said at the top. We've done a lot of talking, and we're a very flat organization, and we made this decision collaboratively. But I am the, executive in charge, and I said, and there are going to be times when I'm going to just need you to be in, and I'm going to need you to respect that. And we're all on the same page, and we're feeling really good about being a hybrid team.
Yeah. Well, we've had dozens and dozens and dozens of team Zoom meetings, but yesterday, right after we saw you at One Broadway, getting together and having a team lunch for an hour and a half, and the conversation, the way in which you engage, the fact that no one's checking email, because everyone on Zoom, everyone listening, no one's on a Zoom for an hour and not looking at their email.
Well, you hear the sound.
Totally.
You open up your email.
You're just distracted.
Yeah.
So that was really special, I thought, to get everyone together. So,
by the way, I've learned, because I have a second monitor. Being a designer, it's really helpful to have this second monitor. Designers out there know what I'm talking about. But I have this habit of the Zoom is in front of me, and then I'll start fidgeting basically on the other monitor. So it's becoming very obvious when I'm starting to drift during a meeting, because you slowly start to see the side of my face. So I'm starting to learn to to maybe bring some of that stuff to the monitor in front of me so it's not so obvious.
But you can always tell when someone's on Zoom.
You can
looking at somebody
always
else.
tell.
I also love when people have
You might as well own it and keep looking.
people
at
are
the
wearing
second
glasses and all of a sudden the screen turns bright white, which you can tell is from Google. Like you can start to see it.
screen. Oh, that's funny.
I mean, one thing I will tell you, another pandemic silver lining, and we all know it, right? Like so many organizations, even great organizations that put out great products and services, run shitty meetings. It's just not uncommon, right? And I think the nature of having to get on a Zoom, like you have to have a plan. You can't just get on a Zoom and stare at one another.
They're all the same.
So I think this has made everyone
I agree with that.
work a little harder. And why are we going to have the meeting? And what's the meeting about? And,
The problem is the format is the same. The place is the same. Everything feels the same from meeting to meeting. If we have a certain client and before, and you sit them down in the conference room, it feels different, right? Like, the faces are different, but you might have something on the whiteboard or, it's just different. And you could be dropped into any Zoom meeting and not really understand the context because they all feel and look the same. And that for me is the hardest part.
Unless the Kendall Square Association is running it, in which case we will help you land. I mean, we're just really thoughtful about how we convene people, right? You got to have some creativity.
Yeah, you do.
It's true.
Humanity.
Yeah, it's very true. I think ultimately that's why we're so anxious to get back into person, is to just break that cycle of feeling like it's the same old shit over and over again.
Or we just have to do better meetings like the KSA does.
Oh yeah, maybe that should be your next sort of seminar thing that you offer people.
On that, I will drop a name, someone I discovered. So I've loved the Brene Brown podcasts on
We don't
Spotify.
promote other podcasts on
Sorry, guys. It's I'm putting it in the portfolio of some of my favorites right next to Graffito. But Priya Parker, do you know her?
No.
She did an interview with Brene on one of her podcasts a couple weeks ago, and she writes about how people meet, how people convene. And it's just of the moment. So highly recommend listening to some of her podcasts.
This is going to be edited
does.
out. So who was it that kept promoting some other podcast? I think it was your brother-in-law, Josh Shirazi.
Yeah, I think that's right.
He dropped
that's so
he was like, and you
funny.
should listen to this podcast and this podcast. It was pretty funny, actually.
It was pretty funny.
Well, thank you so much for coming in. Appreciate it. Everybody that's been coming in, we know has just been so busy, and we just appreciate everybody's time. So thank you very much.
This
And I
was
just love that you
so
took the red
fun.
line.
Oh my gosh.
First time.
Get back on the tee, everybody.
I'm ready. I'm doing it.
I've already said in the past I don't ride the T.
Yeah,
so
but
this
you don't
puts me
ride
in a
the
tough
T
spot. Yeah.
What are you? You're a cyclist?
Yeah. I ride in from Melrose every day.
Oh, you're
Yeah.
one of those.
No, I haven't ridden a bike since I
No,
was
he
maybe. I had a bicycle in college that I brought from home. Somebody borrowed it, and they went to get their mail, left it on the street, and was stolen promptly in Providence. And I never looked back. Never bought another bike. That was my last bike. It was probably now 21 years ago. Jesse got the e-bike, which is very appealing to me.
It's amazing.
Oh.
Yeah.
You still have to move your legs though, Drew. That could be an issue for you.
So I should just get a
pedal.
motorcycle, basically.
There you go.
I thought about a dirt bike at some point.
Yeah, I'd like to see you come to the office in a dirt bike.
Just pull it in, park it in the
Yeah,
front.
it'd be great.
Listen, not everybody's as cool as e-bike. We gotta.
Believe me, I agree.
All right. On that note,
Thanks, guys.
yeah,
Thanks,
thanks so
CA.
much. Bye.
To grow a business in the life sciences industry, your business needs a deep talent pool of scientists and physicists. Your people need high quality of life and great schools. There's a place that has it all, and it's just outside of New York City. With more biochemists and biophysicists than any other state, great neighborhoods, and the #1 ranked schools in the country, Middlesex County, New Jersey is a community dedicated to life science business. Go to discovermiddlesex.com/biz.
You just listened to another thrilling episode of the Graffito Podcast. Jesse, you can't overestimate how important Kendall Square is to this city.
To the city, to the work that we do. Actually, on a national and global scale.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about how even
Moderna-
clients are trying to...
Moderna was incubated in
Right.
Kendall Square. Pfizer is in... it's incredible.
Yeah, it's true. A lot goes
Broad
on.
Institute.
Yeah. Countless reasons why Kendall Square is important. So it was really fun to have her in. If you want to learn more about our podcast, Jesse's going to just give you the rundown, where to go, where to find out about it, and how to participate.
To learn more about the Graffito Podcast, you can go to graffito.com/podcast.
Yeah.
Or you may not know this, but Drew set up a Twitter account.
Nobody knows this. Actually, I think only 20 people know this.
Yeah. So if you're one of our 20 followers on Twitter, disregard. But if you're not, at Graffito Podcast.
That's a really good way to just kind of keep in touch and to find out what's going on, when there's going to be episodes and things like that. I do occasionally go there and drop some news.
You do.
People can also email us at podcast. Well, not at podcast at. It's very confusing.
Podcast@graffito.com.
Yeah. And they can send questions. We get some emails occasionally. It's really nice. But if you have questions, if you find out a guest is coming, for example, next week, Janelle is coming on.
From the Globe.
Yeah, Janelle Nanos.
Yep.
From the Globe is going to be on here. So if you're listening to this now and you have a question, email it, podcast@graffito.com, and maybe we'll ask her. And that's it.
Good test.
Yeah, great. All right, everybody. See you next week. Thanks for listening.
See you next week.
Bye.